Just when it looked like the Golden State Warriors had turned things around, just when they had started playing the best basketball of the season, that's when everything came crashing down in one very, very awful moment.
What a catch. Butler is holding on to that knee. That did not look good at all.
Jimmy Butler and an ACL injury. The second worst thing that could have happened to this Warriors team. And not just one of the worst things that could have happened to the Dubs, but at 36 years old, entering the final year of his contract next year, there's a real chance that this could have been the last time we see Jimmy Butler on an NBA court. And it could be the last time Steph Curry had a chance at winning a championship if the Warriors don't make a drastic move. Because no matter what you think of Jonathan Kuminga, and this is one of the rare situations where a team actually has a player who is more equipped to play as a second option than as the seventh man on the team, he is still not Jimmy Butler. He can give you 20 points, and I have no idea why it took Steve Kerr until the second half to actually give him minutes against the Raptors when we know what he is capable of, but the box score will never do Jimmy Butler's impact justice. The box score won't explain why the Warriors had a record of 42-18 with both Steph and Jimmy in the lineup. In other words, the second best winning percentage in the Western Conference over that period of time. It won't explain why the Warriors' net rating, with Jimmy on the floor and no Steph Curry, was +9. And it won't explain why the Warriors now have a massive decision to make. Either trade Jimmy Butler and or Jonathan Kuminga, or we can consider this season over. I know this isn't what people wanted to hear, and I could say, oh, they could still do something without Jimmy Butler. No. We saw what the Warriors were like last season before they traded for Jimmy. That was a Warriors team that still had Andrew Wiggins. We've seen what the Warriors have been like without one of Steph Curry or Jimmy Butler this season. This is a team with Batman, and a guy who had taken it upon himself to be the best version of Robin you could ever ask for. And you don't just make up for that with some scoring from Kuminga or guys like Moody and Pods stepping up. You don't just make up for the loss of one of the best 20 players in basketball. And I know that sounds crazy, but look at the advanced numbers. Watch the games. Watch the impact of Jimmy Butler. The playmaking, the defense, the efficiency, getting to the free throw line. This is someone that can't be quantified just by his 20 points per game. Any of us who have watched the games, not just this season, but going back to last year, it is not a coincidence the Warriors went from below average to one of the best teams in the league with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry in the lineup. And we saw that impact in the first game without Jimmy against the Raptors, in which the Dubs missed layups, they missed free throws, they weren't on it defensively, and they let one of the worst shooting teams in the league catch absolute fire. And we have to give them a little bit of a break. On the end of a back-to-back, after knowing Jimmy Butler had just torn his ACL, the kind of mental toll, the physical toll that has on a team, you can't expect them to come out and play their best basketball. But we have so much evidence beforehand to suggest this team, they just can't compete without Jimmy Butler. And I mentioned the championship, and I know a lot of people will laugh at that idea, because the Warriors were 25-19, sitting 8th in the West when this happened. This team wasn't winning a championship. And you know what? I agree. But I don't agree with the idea that Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, even at this age, couldn't be your two best players on a championship team. What the Warriors needed was to convert some of that Kuminga salary into another really solid NBA player. And with the health of DeAnthony Melton, Al Horford, you were starting to see what this team actually could be. And to make things even worse, Jimmy was starting to play the best basketball of the season. He was looking aggressive, he was looking explosive, he was looking on it. Even in the game against Miami, in which he got injured, he had 17 points halfway through the third quarter prior to that injury. We talk about Steph and LeBron and KD's longevity. At 36 years old, Jimmy was still playing like an all-star. So for all of this to happen now, at this moment, in this game, Andrew Wiggins' return, Jimmy Butler playing against Miami, honestly, it's just devastating. But unfortunately for the Warriors, and the NBA in general, you can't dwell on a situation like this. Steph Curry is still one of the best 5 or 6 basketball players on earth. And for them, they have to figure out how are they best going to build around Steph Curry. And the way I see it is, they have a couple of decisions they could make. Trade Jonathan Kuminga for expiring contracts, hope Jimmy comes back sometime early next season, and look to go again next year with Jimmy, with Steph, with Draymond, and with a few different players that they sign over the offseason, which is what Mike Dunleavy seems to be suggesting.
I guess I'd say what I envision for him is kind of giving us a boost next year the same way he did last year when he arrived.
Or there is the other option. The option that involves trading Jimmy. And I know Mike Dunleavy said they wouldn't look to trade him. Well, what's he going to say? We're getting rid of him tomorrow? Of course he's going to say that. And people will say it's unethical, but Jimmy knows better than anyone. He forced his way out of Miami, out of Minnesota. This is someone who I've loved watching play every single stop of his career, but he has had no problems moving teams when he has had to. Jimmy Butler knows the business better than anyone. And if the Warriors have an opportunity to turn that massive contract into a star-level player, you have to do it with Steph Curry playing the way he's playing. And there is one star-level player that makes sense. There is one player that could possibly salvage this Warriors season. It's Anthony Davis. I know, before you start booing me, when the Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler, there were a lot of concerns about his injury history as well. Don't forget, that was a serious problem. Or when the Rockets picked up Kevin Durant, this is what happens with these guys. But Anthony Davis is the only guy that could match or exceed the kind of impact from Jimmy. If you thought this team, with Jimmy Butler and a different version of Jonathan Kuminga, was good enough to win something, then Anthony Davis is the only guy. You can talk about the Chicago Bulls and trading for Nikola Vucevic or trading for DeMar DeRozan in Sacramento. Guys, that's not getting you anywhere. I'm going to be completely honest. It is Anthony Davis if you're looking to win this year. If you have plans of looking to compete next year and just acknowledging this year it won't work, well, that's a different story. But this season, they have the assets, they have the contracts to make a trade for a guy like Anthony Davis. And in my opinion, that's the kind of risk you need to take if you think this team still has something left in the tank. Unfortunately, this situation just sucks. There's really no other way to put it. Hopefully Jimmy Butler gets healthy soon, and hopefully we see him on an NBA court again.